Happy Friday morning, everybody, or should I say Friday, because we have finally made it to the weekend. Josh Rucker here with a look at your latest weather update. We've got a lot to discuss. First of all, I'll go ahead and get the elephant out of the room, just out of the way right now. I'm wearing a Razorback jersey for two reasons, right? Well, number one, it was Wear Jersey Day here at the station. So I didn't wear a jersey, obviously, on air. I wasn't allowed to do that. But I'm wearing a jersey right now because we're allowed to wear that around the station for the upcoming Super Bowl. Don't know if you guys heard, but there's going to be a big game coming up on Sunday between Kansas City and Philadelphia. I know probably the first time you've ever heard that information, but we're in that right now, kind of having a little tailgate celebration. I also wore this jersey today because it's red, and it's because it's National Wear Red Day to spread awareness for women's heart health. We've been talking about this all day long during the morning shows. You'll see Dan later on this evening wearing red in addition to Zach Gilday. So just wanted to spread awareness about women's heart health. Today is National Red Day. You'll see other anchors across the country doing that as well. So just wanted to address all those things going on. But hope everybody's having a great Friday so far. You're here because you want to hear about the winter weather potential. We've got a lot to discuss. I'm going to go ahead and bring my mouse over here and little control dials and everything. Right now, the stream looks good. Doesn't look like it's laggy like yesterday, so it looks like we've got the problem fixed. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll knock on some wood, and hopefully this continues as we move throughout the rest of this year. But again, hope everybody's having a great Friday, and let's get right to the details. Let's get right into this information. First of all, let's take a look at that Posey Mountain Weatherbug Network camera. Another gloomy, cloudy day over northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. It's been that way really over the last 4 or 5 days now. Now, obviously, Monday was fantastic. Temperatures were record-breaking, but really haven't seen a whole lot of warm air. We've had some spouts here and there. Yesterday in Fayetteville was nice and warm, but today not going to be the case at all. 53 degrees in Fayetteville, 47 in Rogers, 45 in Harrison, 51 in Fort Smith, 49 in Clarksville and Boonville. Folks, the temperatures haven't warmed up really at all compared to what we saw earlier this morning. And that's going to be kind of the theme as we move throughout the rest of the day today. We also have a small chance for some drizzle here and there. You can see a little bit of that developing in western Washington County. We do have that in the forecast, but nothing crazy, nothing major. As you can see here on radar, it's barely even showing up. So just make sure you're aware of that. Make sure you got the jacket on as you step out the door. Temperatures, of course, going to remain steady in the middle to upper 40s throughout the afternoon hours. And it's all because of that boundary, which is well off to the south of our weather coverage area. You can also see a trough of low pressure off to our west. That's really firing up that drizzle activity. But as you can see, just not a whole lot of energy to work with right now. That's going to be changing as we move throughout the coming days. Trust me on that one. And this boundary's not done quite yet. It's going to stress us out just a little bit tomorrow because, of course, it has to do that. It's been stressing us out all week, making for a very challenging forecast. And, of course, this boundary is going to try to lift back to the north into portions of northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. And I do think it makes it into at least Scott and LaFleur County, but is it going to make it all the way to the I-40 or even Interstate 49 corridor? That remains to be seen, and we still have doubts about that. Now, again, today, temperatures stay steady, but overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, we will see a small warming trend. So you'll see here temperatures right around 53 degrees in Fayetteville, that prevailing easterly wind, that drainage wind in the River Valley going on. That's why temperatures are appearing colder. But look at Poto and Waldron, much warmer than the rest of NWA. And again, this NAM model is a fantastic model, folks, for temperatures. I know the NAM gets a lot of hate across certain aspects of the weather community. And, you know, some of that is warranted, especially when it comes to precipitation and how it kind of evolves things with severe weather setups. But in my opinion, it is one of the best models for temperatures. It picks up on those terrain differences. It picks up on different things that some of the other models can't pick up on. So a little shout out to the NAM right now. I think it's on to something. I think we may reach near 60 degrees in Fort Smith tomorrow, maybe a little bit of compressional warming going on, but again, it's not going to get that warm tomorrow. I certainly don't think it's going to get into the 70s in northwest Arkansas. It might, though, in Poto and Waldron. It might do that in these areas, and I do buy that. But look at the temperatures cool off. I mean, by the time we get to 4 p.m., temperatures are in the upper 30s to lower 40s in far northwestern Arkansas, lower 50s in portions of the River Valley as well. And, yeah, it's going to stay cold. Look at those overnight lows dropping off into the 20s with maybe wind chill values in the upper teens as you wake up for Super Bowl Sunday. So if you're getting some last minute Tostitos or you maybe getting some dips or stuff like that, like it's going to be cold Sunday morning. Heading to church services, it's going to be cold. Make sure you're bundling up. I know I got my gloves ready to go for church Sunday morning. So just make sure you're aware of that. And again, this is setting the stage for next week, right? And as I always say, I say this every single time we have winter weather potential. My alarm bells will never go off for a system in Northwest Arkansas or the River Valley, no matter how great it's looking with the models, unless the cold air is already in place. To me, the cold air being in place is the number one key to getting significant winter weather in our area. Looks like the cold air is going to be in place, folks. As early as Saturday afternoon, continuing throughout the day Sunday as well. This is why we are concerned about this system. It all just kind of compounds on top of each other. So this weekend, a little bit gloomy, not so super weather expected on Saturday with temperatures in the 50s. Obviously, that's going to be dropping off throughout the day. Sunday, even colder. You might want to grab a bowl of chili with temperatures in the upper 30s to right around 40 degrees. And again, I'm not going to call out the puns that I made here, but you guys can maybe connect the dots. Super Bowl right there, Super Bowl. So I always love putting stuff like that in the morning and seeing if people pick up on it. But yeah, looking interesting this weekend and looking a little bit gloomy and a little bit cloudy. But again, this all sets the stage for next week, and we've got a lot of energy that's going to be cranking up over the desert Southwest, the Southwest flow weather pattern, folks, all the time, just bringing in round after round after round of precipitation. It's already setting up over portions of the West Coast right now. A lot of energy to work with this particular storm system. If we jog a little bit farther to the east, you can see, again, that zonal flow weather pattern is taking shape over Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley as we speak. And this is why we've got to watch this storm system very, very closely. I'm going to get to a few comments in just a minute. I know some people are asking some questions and stuff like that. I promise you we'll answer those questions as soon as we get through some of this information. But this is a look at the 850 millibar temperatures. Now, this is the European model, which has been a little bit warm, in my opinion, when it comes to the evolution of the temperatures, especially for this weekend and the early part of next week. But it gives you a general idea of that cold air seeping into the area and kind of progressing throughout the week. Notice Monday into Tuesday, that shallow layer of cold air is located over Northwest Arkansas and Southwest Missouri. Not the case in the River Valley. We're in that battleground zone, right? The River Valley going to be on the warmer side of things, which is why I think winter weather impacts, if there are any, look to be minimal in the River Valley right now. But obviously, if temperatures continue to cool off for Northwest Arkansas, that has an effect on the River Valley as well. So it's something to watch very closely. But Northwest Arkansas would be favored if there's enough cold air in place at the surface for freezing rain potential, especially Monday night into Tuesday. It could come as early as Sunday, and I certainly do think Sunday night there could be some freezing drizzle, especially in the higher terrain of Northwest Arkansas. Southwest flow just means these little pieces of energy swing our way. Now, as we move throughout next week, we're going to get a little break Tuesday evening, I think. And then Wednesday, another system comes in on top of a deeper layer of cold air. That deeper layer of cold air could foster perhaps more sleet and snow potential. If anything, it's going to make it colder at the surface. And if it's not as cold above our heads, well, that would mean more significant icing potential if that came to pass. Now, that's something that we've got to work out. Wednesday to Thursday, there's a lot more uncertainty with that, obviously, because we're 5 to 6 days out. Think of it as a Plinko board, right? You're taking that puck. It's going down that board, as Dan Scott would say. And we still have a lot of different possibilities for Wednesday to Thursday. We still got a lot of possibilities for Monday to Tuesday as well, but that Plinko puck is a little bit lower on the board, so we have more confidence about the evolution of that particular storm system. Wednesday to Thursday, that still needs to be fine-tuned, but man, if we still have a warm nose in place, guys, Wednesday to Thursday, which the models can underdo a lot of the times, Wednesday to Thursday looks like trouble. Wednesday to Thursday especially looks like trouble. But Monday night to Tuesday could be a very similar story if we have the temperatures that are below freezing over Northwest Arkansas. So again, we're going to show you two different model runs. We've done this over the last few days, but it's literally how it's going to work, right? Because the European model has this big-time warm bias. Again, it might be right. What if the European's right? Well, then we're good. We're in good shape for Monday to Tuesday. We hope it's right, but it's it's a little weird because it messed up this past week. It has a history of screwing up with these shallow Arctic air masses, and that's why I just don't necessarily buy it completely because As you'll see on Monday, it's all rain. That is all rain over northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. Temperatures are above freezing during the overnight hours. You have to be at 32 degrees or less in order to get freezing rain. If it's 33 degrees, it's just plain old regular rain. Now, I would say even if we did have this set up, I wouldn't be surprised if a few sleet pellets mixed in Monday night and early Tuesday morning if the European's right. But again, that's not an impactful system Monday night into Tuesday if the European's right. Now, even with that warm bias that the European model has, check out what happens Wednesday to Thursday. Bang. Now the cold air is getting deeper. Now you're starting to see temperatures drop off below freezing. That looks like a sleet, maybe freezing rain mixture initially Wednesday morning. That's what the European is showing. If you look at the soundings, if you look at the warm nose that it's showing, it does deepen the cold air mass throughout the day Wednesday, transitions to all snow. We'll see if that comes to pass. I think Zach had a really good point yesterday on the live stream with Dan about how sometimes when you get really heavy freezing rain rates or even sleet rates, you can get that column of air above the surface to cool, and that eventually leads to snow. Certainly could be the case with the system next week. But again, Wednesday into Thursday, there's a lot more uncertainty. Now, the European, I noticed this, Dan. I know you're watching right now in the conference room. I noticed the European is not as progressive, is a little bit more progressive with the system. So it's moving it out a little bit faster, whereas the GFS model has that more positive tilt to the trough. So it sticks these systems around a little bit longer. And I'll show you why that is, because the GFS or American model is much more aggressive with this storm system. You can see here, Sunday night to Monday, it's hinting at that light freezing drizzle potential that I was just talking about in the higher terrain of northwest Arkansas. But then notice, Monday into Tuesday, it has the cold air already in place over NWA. Temperatures below freezing starting there in the overnight hours Monday. That leads to freezing rain over the higher terrain of NWA and in portions of Benton and Washington County, according to the GFS, according to the latest GFS model. And then on the backside of that system, maybe another piece of energy moving through on Tuesday. And I buy that. I do buy that. That's something the European does not have. The European wants to push the energy out by the time we get to Tuesday morning. The GFS has a second piece of energy, kind of this little oomph that's moving in on the southwest flow weather pattern, and that leads to more winter weather potential Tuesday afternoon. I do buy that because it's southwest flow, it's Baja Blast energy, and there's always more than what the models typically show. But I think the GFS is hinting at something here. Now, obviously, we get a little break in the action, but here comes the next system on Wednesday. Again, the cold air's getting deeper. It's surging a little bit farther to the south. So this system may be a little bit more impactful. Now, the GFS looks like it's warmed up just a little bit, but look at the 32-degree line. I mean, it's way south. So this is, if it's 32 degrees, right, in these areas, well, that's freezing rain that's falling. So take that with a grain of salt right there. But that is a big piece of energy moving through Wednesday into Thursday morning. My goodness, that's a big piece of energy. I mean, let's look at a vorticity map here. Let's just kind of see what's funneling in right there, because I want to see just kind of what the models have been doing over the last 24 hours or so in terms of just deepening this energy. But let's go here. Let me pull it up. I've got a lot of different graphics here, so bear with me for just a second. I'll drag that into the show. That way we can stop it. Let's look at the European first. I'm going to move my mug out of the way here. You guys don't want to see me. You want to see the model. So let's go ahead and look at what the European's showing. So here's the energy. Again, the European not showing any subtle pieces of energy. Well, there it is right there, actually. There's a little piece of energy right there. Now it's moving in from the southwest. You could see it just overhead, northwest Arkansas. That's a little subtle piece of energy that could lead to some drizzle or freezing drizzle early Monday morning. Here comes the energy during the day Monday. Look at all that energy swinging in from the south and west. Just all of that moving into northwest Arkansas. Now, it pushes out pretty quickly Tuesday morning, which is why we have a break in the activity according to the European. But notice Wednesday into Thursday, oh my, that is a lot of energy pushing into northwest Arkansas right there. That right there is the kind of the look that 2009 had. Maybe not as strong or as tight, but that's a lot of energy pushing into NWA and the River Valley Wednesday into Thursday, and that's why the winter weather impacts could be a little bit higher with that second system. And look at that, even more energy coming through over the weekend and the early part of next week. So maybe the Razorback game isn't completely dry over the weekend. We'll have to keep a close eye on that. Obviously, that's very far out. Now, let's look at the GFS model. Now, I don't think this will go out all the way because we don't have it set up that way, but we can at least get a general idea. Okay, so let me move this high pressure out of the way. It's been a while since we've shown this particular model, so you're kind of getting a behind-the-scenes look at what we do. I'm opening up the scene, and then I'm taking out the high pressure. That way you're not confused. But again, a little bit similar, but look at the little subtle piece of energy moving in. Again, late Sunday night into early Monday morning. And then there's that first system, that first wave, moving in throughout the day, Monday into Tuesday. And then look at that, another piece of energy surging in Tuesday afternoon, causing more precipitation over our area. We get a little break, and then bang. Oh, my goodness. Look at all that energy Wednesday into Thursday. That's why the GFS is a little bit more aggressive. Now, it has lifted a little bit farther north than the previous GFS, which is why it has it just a bit warmer over northwest Arkansas. And that's a possibility. I still think, though, that the cold air is going to be in place Wednesday into Thursday, and that would spell big-time trouble if that verified. Both of them, if they verified for Wednesday into Thursday, would spell some pretty significant winter weather. But again, this is not set in stone. There's nothing that's 100% certain right now. We're talking about some fine lines right here, folks. I mean, by like a few degrees. You warm it up by 3 to 4 degrees, and this is a big nothing burger for both systems. You cool it off by 3 to 4 degrees for both systems Monday through Thursday, and this is a big winter storm that we talk about for many years, right? It's like one of those kind of things, especially when it comes to ice over northwest Arkansas and freezing rain. The models can struggle a little bit when it comes to the evolution of these storm systems. And that's why it really is, quite frankly, nowcasting in a lot of ways. And what I mean by nowcasting is we really don't know the full details of the system until we get to really the day of the event. Now, I'm going to have another weather live stream early Sunday morning, a special weather live stream that we typically don't have Sunday morning because we have a Super Bowl show at 9 a.m. on Fox 24. So during that time frame, Sunday, we'll probably have a much better idea of what's coming up Monday to Tuesday. But again, it's these margins that we're talking about here, these temperatures, that really make all the difference. And a lot of times with freezing rain too, you need it to be a little bit cooler than 32 degrees, right, for it to really start piling up and causing power outages or damage or all those other things. So it's a lot of things. And Alex Hall just said it best. Models were off just by a few degrees over the last few days. You take it into next week, and we have big trouble. We have big trouble. And it's an Arctic air mass, too. And Alex, you know this. Josh Wise, if he's watching, knows this. The models can't pick up on Arctic air very well. And it just, for some reason, it can't sample it very well. It doesn't know how pesky it is. That's why you need humans to forecast the weather. That's why AI can't replace humans, because you got to understand the meteorology behind it. And sometimes these models don't do that. And so that's what concerns me about next week. Even with the European showing all rain, it's still got a big system moving to the area, and you cool off those temperatures by 3 to 4 degrees on the European, and it's just a big system. So let's go ahead and look at some comments here. I'm gonna go back here, and we'll kind of put a little freeze frame for people just joining in so they can see kind of the general idea. Heading to the store tomorrow with all the other crazies. Y'all don't buy up all the milk and bread. So CR is already all over it right now. And CR, again, it might be a little early to do that just because we don't know the full extent of things. There's obviously a lot of uncertainties there. But, if you're getting ahead of the game, you're getting ahead of the game right there. And I respect it. Tuesday night and Wednesday, right? So, Alex, Tuesday night, honestly, I think there will be a break. Be more Wednesday into early Thursday morning, I think, for that second system. But then you got that other system starting Sunday night and continuing through early Tuesday morning. Really, Monday night might be trouble if the temperatures are colder than what a lot of these models are showing. Chris is all about the intro music. Ready for the update. Go Hogs, Chris. I'm going to the game tomorrow. Cannot wait for some Razorback basketball. I'm excited again for this team. It is going to be an electric atmosphere tomorrow. And, man, if we can get that win, probably going to see a storming of the court, and Arkansas went from basically not making the tournament a week ago to being on the right side of the bubble if they win that game. That's kind of crazy when you think about it. Things can change. It's just like the weather. Sports is just like the weather. It can change so dramatically. It's unbelievable. I'm smoking brisket, baby backs, and turkey legs Saturday night to Sunday morning. Hope the wind speeds are at a minimum. I think Saturday night the winds are going to start calming down, Alex. It may be a little windy during the day Saturday, but not too bad. Josh, who are you going with for the game on Sunday? I have decided, folks. I'm going with the Eagles. Dan shared that story yesterday about that gentleman who took that one young lady to the prom. So I'm definitely going to be rooting for the Eagles on this one after hearing that story. I don't like either team, just to be clear about that. I'm a Colts fan through and through. And look, we're poverty. You guys can joke about it in the comments and stuff like that. I know full well that we are terrible, but I just wanted different teams this year. I just wanted different teams. I respect Patrick Mahomes. I respect greatness. Three-peat would be cool, but like, come on, I want somebody else to get a crack at it, especially the Lions and the Bills. Man, those are some cursed franchises right there. Brendan says, relax, everybody. He's here. Brendan in the house right now, always tuning in. What a surprise on how fast it dropped in the front. Felt like it was dropping 1 degree every 5 minutes. Michael, yesterday was crazy. That temperature gradient was crazy. Man, if you want to work on your forecasting skills, just come up here to Northwest Arkansas and give it a crack. Do you think flights will be canceled Monday through Wednesday? Taylor, too early to determine that. If there's ice, absolutely, it will be canceled. If it's just plain old regular rain, they'll be fine. I mean, there'll be obviously maybe a few delays here and there, but otherwise they'll be fine. It's all about these temperature differences, folks, and we're talking by like 3 to 4 degrees. It is actually unbelievable. And out of all the precipitation types, freezing rain is the most difficult to forecast because you're not going to get any model help. You're just not. It's just not going to help you out at all, and it's really, really tough. Watching from the conference room looks like no glitchy video. It has got a few stutters here and there, Dan, but otherwise, I see perfect. So the way we're doing it now, Dan, I think is the way to go right here. So I really appreciate you doing some trial and error. I know that was probably a lot of trial and error yesterday, trying to figure out what was going on. Bentley doesn't like a balloon. We have a balloon for the game for Sunday. Bentley, watch out. That's Nikita's pup right there. Bentley, just make sure you're staying away from that balloon on Sunday. Wyatt joining in from Western Kentucky University, the home of the Hilltoppers, starting his first semester up there for meteorology. And yes, Wyatt, I am so pumped for baseball season. I'll tell you what, man. Next week, looking a little interesting on Saturday and Sunday. If there's another piece of energy, maybe a little soggy out there. Hopefully it warms up too. My goodness gracious. It's going to be cold at least Monday through Thursday of next week. Let's see here. Edward's on here. So Edward is on Twitter right now. Dan wants the $10,000 slot on the Plinko machine. So everybody else, you're going to have to pick some different sections. Dan's got the $10,000 slot. I'll take the jackpot, Dan. To me, by the way, the jackpot is no winter weather next week. I don't want any of this freezing rain stuff. First of all, it throws a wrench into my whole plans. I really want to, play on my PC next week. And if I am not able to do that, well, then I'm going to have to hit up Cade, Dan, and maybe play some VR with him because, man, I might be down here in Fayetteville for a few days if we get any freezing rain, especially here in Northwest Arkansas. Let's see here. Are there any days next week we think the roads will be okay? So, Amanda, here's the deal. Based on what I'm seeing long range, we do have winter weather next week. Friday should see significant improvement as long as the temperatures stay warm, or as warm as what the models are saying. Sometimes these Arctic air masses are pesky, so that can throw a wrench into things. But I think Friday right now is looking like the day where roads would improve if we do get any winter weather next week. But remember, we're still so far out. What if we don't get any winter weather at all? Well, then the roads are fine all week. But I have my doubts that we're going to go completely we're just going to completely miss all winter weather potential. I still think there will at least be a chance of light icing next week, especially in the higher train in Northwest Arkansas. I think that at the very least. Could there be more than that? We'll see. It's certainly a possibility, as you just saw. Which models do you think is more accurate for the system? Honestly, Kinsey, I mean, the European has a warm bias. We know that the GFS sometimes has a cold bias, but here's the deal about the GFS. The GFS, from my experience, handles these shallow Arctic air masses a little bit better than the European model, or actually a lot better than the European model. Now, the model that I think does the best when it comes to temperatures is the NAM, the North American model. That's what we showed just a few moments ago to kind of gauge the temperatures that we're going to have over the next few days. We don't get that model, though, until about 2 to 3 days out from the event. So we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for that. We're going to get the first look at that later on tonight and early tomorrow morning. As we get more data in, we're going to have a much better idea. To me, the NAM is going to be key to the forecasting process because it's the temperature. It's the temperature model, in my opinion. It is the best when it comes to temperature, especially when it comes to shallow Arctic air masses. To me, that's going to be the sweet spot because, all these models are going to be pumping out different things next week, depending on how well they handle Arctic air. But the NAM, to me, is going to handle temperatures the best, and that will determine the extent of the ice potential. Let's see here. Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby or Josh. Yeah, absolutely, Michael. I'm trying not to. But man, this is just so tough right now. How is Monday looking? Traveling up from Louisiana? Well, Evelyn, it's one or two ways right now. It's just too early to determine that. I think I lean towards Monday during the day probably being fine. But Monday night to Tuesday, if we're going to have significant ice potential, I think it's going to be Monday night to Tuesday. Monday during the day, it might be a little bit too warm. I will say that. Monday night into Tuesday morning, that might be a different story. So that's something that's to be determined, Evelyn. Can go one or two ways. I lean, though, towards Monday during the day being okay. Ooh, but if it's colder, again, if it's 3 to 4 degrees colder, Evelyn, then it's just a madhouse. So stay tuned to these forecasts. We're going to keep an eye on it for you. Brendan, it's too early to determine that right now. But, the threshold for power outages really is a quarter of an inch of ice or more. From my past experience, I think a quarter of an inch or more is the way is pretty much the threshold for widespread power outages. Once you get over a half inch of ice, you're starting to talk about damage. Even more widespread power outages, an inch of ice is catastrophic. Anything over an inch is catastrophic icing. Just joined, Taylor. Is Rudy still looking lucky to avoid the ice, Taylor? I think Rudy has a better chance to see mostly rain. But again, if this Arctic air mass is deeper in Northwest Arkansas, right? Let's say it's 3 to 4 degrees colder in Northwest Arkansas. Well, it'll be 3 to 4 degrees colder in Rudy as well. So then that causes issues right there because then Rudy could see hints of winter weather here and there. I will say Wednesday to Thursday might be the day to watch for Rudy. I know you're towards the River Valley, but Wednesday to Thursday, if there's a chance for the River Valley to get in on this action, it'll be Wednesday into Thursday. But the margins are thin right now. I think this is mostly a Northwest Arkansas event if there's any winter weather, but you can't rule out the River Valley either because it's a compounding effect. If it's colder in Northwest Arkansas, it's probably going to be colder in the River Valley as well. So that's something to watch very closely there. Let's see. So over the Swift and Kelsey thing, says Tori. I think there's a lot of people that agree with you, Tori, but I'm not going to comment on that. I know there's Swifties in the comments, right? I know there's Kelsey people in the comments as well. I'm just going to go ahead and hold my peace because I don't want people mad at me for my thoughts on the matter. But again, I'm rooting for the Eagles. I'm rooting for the Eagles for a reason. So that's what I'll leave it at right now. So Kinsey asked a very good question. When will we see warnings, watches, or advisories, right? It could be just a winter weather advisory next week. Well, Kinsey, for a winter storm watch, it's typically about a couple days out from the event. So about 48 hours from the event, that's when the National Weather Service typically issues those. So we could see a winter storm watch as early as tomorrow evening. More than likely, the National Weather Service is going to take a wait-and-see approach, kind of like they did a few weeks ago with that winter storm we had in Northwest Arkansas in the River Valley, especially for far northwestern Arkansas. It took a little longer for that northern row of counties to be added to the winter storm watch and warning, and that's because there was more uncertainty in those locations. There is a tremendous amount of uncertainty with this system. So to me, as early as tomorrow evening, but more than likely Sunday, for Northwest Arkansas and for Northwest Arkansas. I'm not going to include the River Valley right now. I think this is mostly a Northwest Arkansas event. And if there's more confidence that this is not going to be as impactful, well, then they'll issue a winter weather advisory probably the morning of the event, or maybe during the evening before the event, so Sunday evening. So that's the general timeline, Kinsey. Do I know if they're going to issue a watch or an advisory? I do not know that yet. To me, there's too much uncertainty right now to issue one, and I think the National Weather Service is on the same page on that front. So look out, I would say, Sunday during the evening hours. I think that's probably going to be the time, but it just depends. It's system by system. This one has a lot of uncertainty with it, though, that's for sure. I mean, look at this, Thomas. GFS and European model were both 8 to 9 degrees too warm for the noon forecast on Norman. They're going to be too warm for tomorrow too, Thomas, over Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. So it's really unbelievable. It's really unbelievable how badly these models struggle with this type of setup. Sicko weather. I agree, Tanya. It is sicko weather. Let's see here, Dan. Oh yeah. So okay, a lot of things on the phone. Okay, just making sure. There is occasional glitches here and there, very similar to what you saw yesterday, Dan. But overall, it's much better. Look at that. As soon as I see something, Dan, it did it again. It did a little subtle glitch. So maybe I just don't need to mention that word anymore. If I don't mention the word anymore, maybe it just goes away. Oh, Scott, consider an audio compressor and a limiter. Well, maybe that'll be in the budget in the future, Scott. Who knows? How likely will a storm disrupt air traffic on Thursday morning? Again, TBD, but if there is a time frame for more significant winter weather, it would be Wednesday into Thursday morning. Good question, but I'm giving you a kind of a weatherman's answer. We got to watch these trends for that. But Wednesday into Thursday is very much up in the air as well. No doubt about it. Yes, it looks more aggressive with these models, but remember, we are 5 to 6 days out. We're higher up on that Plinko board. There's a lot of different ways this could go. The Monday-Tuesday system's lower on that Plinko board, but there's still a lot of ways it could go. So, again, we're gonna be watching this very closely. We're gonna keep updating you guys, constant updates to keep you in the know and in the loop on what's going on, because this is evolving. We're watching this like an absolute hawk right now. Trust me on that front. Well, Rob, Southern Washington County is looking good according to the European. But the European model has Southern Washington County at 34 degrees at this time at 10 a.m. Wednesday morning. It's 2 to 3 degrees colder, Rob. It's not looking good. So, yes, the model says it's looking good. I buy it? Not necessarily. And that's the problem with these setups, folks. That's the problem with these setups right here. Let's see here. So Kat's asking about snow potential on Wednesday. And here's the deal, Kat. If the Arctic air mass is deeper, it will fall as snow or sleet. And then we won't deal with as much freezing winds. Sometimes that can happen. Now, the problem that I have with this system and why I don't think snow is as favorable is because of that pesky southwest flow weather pattern. When you're in this type of pattern, you got a ridge of high pressure off to our south and east, southwest flow over northwest Arkansas. The models constantly underdo the extent of the warm nose above our heads. So what happens is the model's pumping out snow, but what's actually happening is that snow is melting, and it's either becoming sleet or it's becoming freezing rain if that warm nose is really deep. Will we eventually transition to snow as we move throughout the day Wednesday? If it does come to pass, perhaps that's the case. But if that warm nose is stout, folks, it is hard to overcome it. It is a long process. Remember, winter weather evolves very slowly. So right now, nothing's set in stone, obviously, for Wednesday. I know I keep repeating myself on that front, but just something to be aware of for next week. The models, as we get closer, might be pumping out snow, but is that truly the case? That remains to be seen, and that goes back to the nowcasting situation that I was just talking about, because we really won't know until we get to the evening before or the morning of the event, when we can actually see what's going on above our heads, actual observations, and not what the models are showing. Let's see here. We're heading to Sioux City, Iowa for my daughter's hockey tournament next Thursday evening. Ooh. And here's the deal, Michael. We got a lot of uncertainty here in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. To me, there ain't nothing uncertain about what's going on in Kansas and Missouri and portions of Iowa as well. I mean, my goodness, they could get hammered with a major winter storm in those locations. So, Michael, this is something to watch. You could have some very treacherous travel conditions next Thursday evening in these locations. I mean, look at what's going on to our north. Now, it does move out by Thursday evening. That's the good news on that front. So you're not running into precipitation Thursday evening, but the roadways could be just really in rough shape north of us, where that colder air is a lot more entrenched. So it's interesting. But we'll keep an eye on this for you, Michael. I will say Thursday evening that's much better than leaving Wednesday evening or Tuesday evening when it's just going to be falling in those areas. They've obviously got a lot more resources up there, so you may not be in as much trouble. But just keep an eye on these forecasts. Keep an eye on those travel conditions too, because I am a little bit more confident that Missouri, Kansas, Iowa is going to get hit with the pretty impactful winter storm. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Brendan. I can't look ever since I got a PC. If I lose my power, I'm gonna be really sad. I'm gonna be really sad because I love that thing. It's a lot better for my schoolwork too than a laptop. Okay, so Kristen wants to see the NAM again. So here you go, Kristen. As you can see, temperature stays steady in the 40s today. We warm up a little bit overnight tonight and early tomorrow morning with southwesterly winds at about 5 to 15 miles per hour. That could warm us up into the middle to upper 50s. So I did bump up the temperatures by just a couple of degrees. I've got it at 54 in Fayetteville, 60 in Fort Smith, and then the drop-off happens during the afternoon. And as you can see, it's going to be chilly Saturday afternoon, upper 30s to lower 40s with pretty stout northerly wind at about 5 to 15 miles per hour. That wind should drop off during the overnight hours, but wind chill value is still in the teens and 20s for Northwest Arkansas early Sunday morning as you're heading to church services. So bundle up as you're stepping out the door for sure. Let's see here. Making sure I'm getting to every single comment here. I want to answer everybody's comments. Why is it so hard to forecast in Northwest Arkansas, Dupe? I mean, you're speaking to the choir right here. I mean, I think, the position that we are in the country, first of all, makes it difficult. It's difficult if you're in the middle latitudes because you've got the Gulf moisture to the south, then you've got the cold air to the north. Obviously, you've got these clashings of different patterns of different weather conditions over the midsection of the country. And Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley seems to be right smack dab in the middle of that because we kind of are. We're kind of right smack dab in the middle of the country. We're landlocked. So a lot of different processes could happen. Not only that, Dupe, but you've got the Boston Mountains, you've got the Ouachita Mountains, and then you've got the River Valley in between both of those mountain ranges. So a lot of times the Boston Mountains play a massive role in the weather, as do the Ouachita Mountains with that drainage wind in the River Valley. So that can throw a wrench in the forecast because the models can't pick up on it very well. And, honestly, for us as, meteorologists and as weather forecasters, in my case, I mean, it is challenging because not every case is the same, right? It's not like, if you're like a surgeon, for example, this is how you remove a tumor, right? With weather, there's all these different processes that are going on. And if you change one of those variables slightly, you don't really know if that changes until it happens, right? With severe weather, for example, well, then it can mess up the whole thing. And so when you've got these different variables in place, you already have a bunch of variables in weather. But when you add other variables to the equation, such as the position across the country and the topography as well, it makes it very, very hard. And so that's why we appreciate people that have patience with us, because to me, this is one of the hardest places to forecast in the entire country. No doubt about it. If you really want to hone your forecasting skills, if you want to be humbled, this is the place to be. I mean, it's like a golf game to me. It really is. You can never get it down perfectly. And that's weather in general. You're never going to be perfect with it. It's all about learning and understanding that there is a lot of processes behind it. And I have to sometimes stop beating myself so much up about it. I'm getting better at that over time, but it is truly very difficult. And that's why I like having guys like Dan, one of the best meteorologists I've ever seen on TV when I was younger and watched him help me with these processes. Because really, I mean, you look at the models and stuff like that, the models are pumping out things But Dan has been here for so long. He knows about this area so well that he picks up on these different quirks that the models can't pick up on. And it's helped with my forecasting as well. And it's helped me understand that there's a reason why we go to school and study meteorology for these things and not just look at the models, because there is a lot of meteorology behind it that you have to understand that the models, quite frankly, don't pick up on. And that's why they are a guidance and not the forecast. The forecast is done by the human being who can actually pick up on these things and understand the science behind it. And by the way, I love this right here. We fixed the glitch. Peace out. I've never watched the movie Office Space, Dan. So that's another movie I got to add to the equation right now. Uh-oh. Oh, man. I feel like the list of movies is just endless right now in my catalog. Oh, thank you so much, Scott, for that really nice comment. That's why we do these live streams as well. When we got big weather coming up, we want to make sure you guys are updated. Obviously, when there's winter weather, severe weather, and stuff like that, we're going to be on here constantly updating you on the latest details. I know some people don't have cable or access to TV or hardly use it, as Scott said. And so that's why we get on here and we give you all the latest details. Let's see here. 33 to 34 degree ground temperature. I'd say still have ice and trees and power lines. Trouble. I mean, Todd, that's the thing. That's why this cold air coming in early Saturday is such a big deal, because you get multiple days before the system comes in where temperatures are cold. Maybe not necessarily below freezing 24/7, but cold. And that causes issues, especially for the roadways and especially for metal surfaces and stuff like that, which is why bridges and overpasses can be a big danger during icing events. And so this is why I'm concerned. This is why Dan's concerned. Zach and Peyton feel the same way as well. There's a lot of variables at place here that kind of ring those alarm bells right now, which is why we are talking about this and why we're also being very cautious to this approach as well, because, again, it's like a 3 to 4 degree difference. It's like a 3 to 4 degree difference. So this is something that we're going to continue to watch very closely, but a very good comment right there. Very good comment. Looks like a bad setup for freezing rain. I'm in Harrison and think we might get a nice storm. Harrison would be one of those locations that's favored for maybe more freezing rain than the surrounding area. I would say the usual suspects, Joshua: Boone, Newton, Madison, Carroll County. Those 4 counties right there. They always get the brunt of winter weather potential. These areas right here. Higher terrain of the Boston Mountains, man. It causes problems. So if you live in Carroll, Madison, Boone, and Newton County, you definitely need to watch this system very closely. I think there will be at least some icing in those spots. Pea Ridge area, Rodney, again, very, very similar to what I was saying. The farther north and west you go with this setup, the more likely you are to run into the freezing rain potential. So Pea Ridge might be under the gun. But again, it's still a little bit too far out to get into specific details. Let's see here. 1 day of mildish temps before the Arctic chill train comes, and Dan Stuff Diva tomorrow may not even be that mild. It might just be in the 50s for most spots, but River Valley, I say there will be a chance for it to briefly be mild, but man, it's going to be dropping off quick tomorrow afternoon. So you might get the morning to get outside and enjoy some warmer weather. I use that loosely because it's not even going to get up into the 70s in most spots, but man, Punxsutawney Phil, cooking with gas. I got to give props to that guy. He only works 1 day a year, but he got it right this year. My goodness. Weird question, but what is the biggest county in the coverage area? That is a good question. I believe LaFleur County would be the biggest, Brendan, at least in the weather coverage area, and our DMA. I'm going to go with Crawford County. I think Crawford County might be the biggest in the DMA, but in the weather coverage area, LaFleur County for sure. LaFleur County for sure is the biggest county. So out there in southern Oklahoma, right here, this county where Poto is, in our weather coverage area, that is the biggest county for sure. It's a good question. I might need to actually look at that. I'll do research on it. I get 1 day off. I'm actually going to be working Sunday morning, so I get 1 day off. Maybe I'll use that day off to research that. Absolutely, Dupe. Anytime. Thanks for the question. Very good question. Something that just you're asking the same exact question, Dupe, that we ask ourselves every single day. So that was a really good question right there. Let's see here. I need to get around and get some propane before all this stuff hits. I hope it's not as bad as they say it's going to be. And Donna, I hope that there's just nothing at all. I hope it's 3 to 4 degrees warmer than even what the European is showing. I just don't want to deal with ice. Ice is the worst. Ice is the worst. Jacob asking about Thunder potentially. No, Jacob, I mean, I wouldn't say it's 0% chance, honestly. It depends on your instability nosing in. Southwest flow weather pattern, though, you can sometimes get some convective situation there where you can get some thunder freezing rain, thunder sleet, thunder snow. It's the kind of setup for it, honestly. I would not be surprised if that actually was the case. I don't know if Dan's still on here, what he thinks about that. This is the type of setup where that can happen, for sure. So we'll have to look at that. Depends on your rates. It depends on instability. It depends on a number of different factors. But Southwest flow, I think so. I think there's that chance there. What about power issues next week? So, Daniel, it's still too early to be determined. But, again, as I mentioned earlier, the threshold is about 1/4 of an inch of ice or greater. 1/4 of an inch is when you start getting power outages. 1/2 an inch of ice or greater, it's widespread power outages. It's like thousands of people without power. But 1/4 of an inch is really when you start seeing that way down on the power lines and start causing issues. But we're about 49 minutes into here, and I'm right there with you, Tiffany. I'm praying as well. I think we're going to start wrapping this up. If you guys got any more questions or comments, just let me know. I'll answer them for about 5 to 10 more minutes. I really appreciate everybody's comments. I'm glad we get to do these things. You know, I kind of set up my live streams like this most of the time where I kind of get through the information in the first 20, 25 minutes or so, then we answer questions. And go through some of the graphics again or go into a little bit more in-depth detail. I just wanted to give you the latest information and tell you that, yeah, winter weather potential is still in the forecast for next week, and it's something that we're watching very closely. I do want to say one thing real quick. I did make a weather blog, a live weather blog that will be updated by all of our weather team here throughout the coming days. Now, before we get to that, I want to tell you about our Weather Authority app. Obviously, we talk about this all the time. You can scan that QR code on your screen right now. You can also find that in the Google Play and Apple App Store. Fantastic app. We constantly update that as well with the newest details. We've also got the weather blog. Okay, so the weather blog, big deal too. Obviously, you can go to the Weather Authority app. I did post a link to that weather blog in the Weather Authority app. You can find that on social media, or you can visit our website, nwahomepage.com, knawa.com, fox24news.tv. Again, check out that weather blog if you got the chance. And then bookmark that page. If you bookmark that page, you can go back. You can see any updates that Dan, Peyton, Zach, or myself posted, and that will give you just a quick, easy access to that weather blog. And you know what? I'll go ahead and actually present the screen real quick so you can see where that weather blog is. So just stand by for a second, but I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep this up here. That way you can see everything. But yeah, this is again just an opportunity for you guys to see kind of just all the newest information, all the newest details, and have up to the well, not minute, but get a general idea of what we're seeing. If there's big changes to the forecast, or if there's something that we're seeing, there's a signal there, this is going to be the way to see that. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen real quick. Let me go here to live weather blog. I believe you guys can see that right now. And again, let me pull this up full screen. This is the weather blog I'm talking about. I made my first post right here. It's got a video. It's got all the information for you. All you got to do as well is just go to the main homepage. It's right on the front for now. It's also #1 on trending stories for our website. You just click on that, and then you go up to the top right corner of your screen, hit bookmark this tab, and bang, you've got that bookmark added. And you can go back to that weather blog as many times as you need. And again, Dan, Zach, Peyton, and I are going to be updating this over the next several days. This is going to be up for several days because we've got the potential for winter weather over the next week or so. So that's the weather blog. Just wanted to give you guys a quick heads up on that front. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap this baby up. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. Yeah, absolutely, Tiffany. We just love it. Just love doing these live updates. I mean, look, this is big passion of mine. I absolutely love the weather so much, even when it comes to winter weather, which I have a kind of more of a disdain towards, but for different reasons. I like the challenge of winter weather. There is some challenge there. I do like being challenged. And so, we really appreciate everybody's patience, and we just really appreciate everybody being understanding of this forecasting process. How accurate are the tips for the models? Not very accurate. Dan Stuff TV, I'm going to be honest with you. Just to give you some context, 2 days ago, it's forecasting highs in the middle 60s in Fayetteville the morning of that day, by the way. And it only got up into the middle to upper 50s. That's pretty bad right there. That's not very good. So they're not great right now in terms of the temperatures. Now, they can be good. Here's the deal, Dan Stuff Diva. I know I'm kind of spreading some negativity about these models at times, but here's the deal. For certain setups, right, that are not towards the extreme side of things, and Dan mentioned this to me when we were having a conversation about this, and this is especially true for the NBN model, but I think it's true for the European and GFS as well. When you're not talking about extreme events, when you're talking about normal snowstorm, normal rainstorm, normal severe weather setup, I think these models can be great when it comes to temperatures and when it comes to even precipitation in the setup. But when you get to extreme setups like this, where you've got southwest flow, you've got a weather pattern that features shallow Arctic air. That, to me, is the biggest blunder that the models have, is forecasting shallow Arctic air. Because if you think about it, it's taking in all the warm air, that warm nose, right? And it's oversampling it for the surface. Because at the surface, it can be cold, right? It can be below freezing, while above the surface, it's well above freezing. So I don't know if it's overcorrecting, or if it's, maybe going to climatology too much. That is something that I need to do more research on. To be honest with you, I could probably make a research paper about that. That might be the thing that I contribute to the weather world in the future. But it's interesting. It's interesting, and I don't understand the equations behind these models fully. I will in the future, hopefully, as I get more knowledge and more information. But it is very interesting. It is very interesting. Do you think we'll have an active spring? Well, Brendan, if this La Nina weather pattern sticks around, perhaps. I mean, it's already been pretty crazy, and it doesn't look like there's any signs of stopping heading into spring. So, you know what? Punxsutawney Phil might be cooking with gas. I'll tell you that much. Let's see here. Oh, Dan Scoff, I was still watching. So Dan is still on right now, still keeping an eye on everything. He's actually here in the station right now. He's doing some work. That shows you this man never sleeps. We were talking about me and my lack of sleep yesterday, which, by the way, Dan and Zach, that was the funniest thing you said yesterday about me sleeping. I don't do that. I just don't do that, right? What even is sleep? Is that even a concept, all right? I mean, I don't even drink coffee. I just get hot chocolate or water, right? Zach Gilday style, or Baja Blast. So, we don't sleep here in the weather lab, that's for sure. And we always burn that midnight oil and keep a close eye on things. That's just what happens when you're a weather nut. You just don't sleep. Oh yeah, absolutely, Dan Stuff Diva. I love doing it. It's my favorite thing. This is like my favorite thing to do, is interact with everybody and talk about this for an hour or two, or sometimes even longer. We've had 6-hour live streams before where we just talk about the weather, and maybe even another longer one if we got winter weather next week. Okay, that's a good idea, Dan. Let's do a quick overview before we wrap this up, because we're about an hour in. I didn't want to go over an hour. So that is a great idea. Let's do a quick recap before we wrap it up. Again, this is the setup that we've got going on for next week. We've got this southwest flow weather pattern. We've got a lot of energy that's starting to crank up over the desert southwest. This is going to be pushing into northwest Arkansas next week. And again, the cold air is coming in really tomorrow afternoon. It's going to remain in place for much of next week. It's going to get deeper over our weather coverage area, which is why the potential for winter weather, in my opinion, is going to slowly grow throughout next week. You can kind of see that reflected here on this European model, that cold air getting deeper and deeper and more entrained over northwest Arkansas and the river valley. Now, there is a model difference. We've been talking about this over the last few days. One of the models, which is a European model, bit of a warm bias with it. That's why it's showing mostly rain for the first system that's moving through Monday into Tuesday, right? So Sunday night, there will be the potential for freezing drizzle. Monday into Tuesday, though, as you can see, it keeps temperatures above freezing over northwest Arkansas during the overnight hours, which is why it's just plain old regular rain. You need the temperatures to be at 32 degrees or less in order for freezing rain to happen. So that is important. Is the European model a little bit too warm? I think it is. Is it going to get cold enough for significant winter weather impacts? That remains to be seen. But we're hoping and praying that the European's right. That's onto something. We want this model to be right. But it does have a warm bias, so we are accounting for that right now. Now, you just saw the cold air getting deeper over northwest Arkansas. Another system is likely to move to the area Wednesday into Thursday. This leads to the potential for more widespread winter weather impacts. There is going to be a system next week that maybe we have a little bit more confidence in winter weather potential. It would be this one just because the cold air is going to be in place, right? So you can see freezing rain, sleet mixture throughout the morning hours Wednesday as that column of air above the surface gets colder. This model says it's going to transition to snow. We'll see. Sometimes the models are too aggressive with that transition. But if you do have a significant amount of precipitation, that does cool the column of air pretty quickly, and that can sometimes lead to more of a snow-sleet mixture rather than freezing rain. So that is something to watch for Wednesday into early Thursday morning of next week. Now, the GFS model continues to be a little bit more aggressive. It's showing that freezing drizzle potential in the higher terrain of northwest Arkansas, Boone, Newton, Carroll, and Madison counties. Those would be the suspects for Sunday night and early Monday morning for freezing drizzle. Then as we move throughout the day Monday, temperatures cool off, and you can see a little bit of freezing rain working its way back into the area. Now, this model has warmed it up just a little bit compared to the previous model. I don't know if you've noticed that, Dan, but compared to the last model, it does look a little bit warmer over northwest Arkansas. You can see more of those greens working their way into Fayetteville. Is that going to come to fruition? Well, consider this. At 7 a.m. Tuesday, this model was saying the temperature was going to be around 33 degrees in Fayetteville. You drop that by 3 to 4 degrees, that's big-time impacts right there, and that's why we've got to keep an eye on Monday into Tuesday. If it is colder than what the models are showing, this could be a highly impactful winter weather maker. And not only that, it's showing a second burst of energy Tuesday afternoon, which I do buy. It wasn't showing that earlier. I do buy this setup. I actually thought about this over the last several days. It's finally showing it on the model because with the southwest flow, it drags in some more energy from the Baja region to Mexico. That is something to watch very closely for Tuesday afternoon. This would more than likely be freezing rain or sleet rather than snow, just looking at the extent of the cold air mass in our weather coverage area. Now, second system comes through Wednesday into Thursday. GFS has warmed it up a little bit, but look at this. I mean, the freezing line is getting as far south as the I-40 corridor, according to the GFS. So this is kind of, it's not maybe lining up with what exactly it's saying is going to happen. So again, very similar, 3 to 4 degrees colder Wednesday to Thursday. This would bring more widespread winter weather impacts. I do think this system does have a better chance of bringing it to our area, but we're 5 to 6 days out, so confidence is quite low at this time. But as you can see, winter weather potential Wednesday into early Thursday morning as well. So as I just mentioned, download that Weather Authority app. You can find that on the Google Play and Apple App Store. You can scan that QR code on your screen right now. We're going to be posting constant updates, video forecasts. Dan's going to come in later on this afternoon into the evening. He's going to have his forecast too. You can also go to our weather blog. I mentioned this earlier, our live weather blog. We're going to be posting constant updates to that. You can find that on social media as well as nwahomepage.com, knwa.com, and fox24news.tv. But I see a few more comments here. Could ATL see snow next week? I don't think Atlanta is going to see any winter weather from this system, but we'll keep an eye on it. I don't think this is a favorable setup, though, because the ridge of high pressure is going to be very close to Atlanta and actually be much colder in those areas compared to northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. Hoping it stays just rain. I'm right there with you, Sean. Are we talking about another 2009 ice storm, Donna? Too early? But icing does look possible for next week. And so that's why we're doing this weather update, because there is that possibility for next week. Nothing's set in stone, but we're going to keep you posted on it. But anyway, folks, we're going to wrap things up. Over 1,000 people on right now. I love it. Guys taking their lunch break, tuning in, joining in, getting all the latest details, asking all these wonderful questions. Dan and Zach will be here later on this evening. They're going to have all the latest information for you. Tune in to KNWA at 5 p.m. for Dan's forecast. Zach's going to be rocking and rolling at 5:30 as well. They're going to be doing some special things throughout those forecasts. It's going to be a weather-heavy show, so don't miss that on TV. Again, Stay safe, everybody. Have a great weekend. Go Hogs. Let's get it done against the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm going with the Eagles for Super Bowl Sunday as well, hoping they can get it done. But honestly, I'm going to be more hate watching that game rather than enjoying it. I still wish the Bills or the Lions made it, or both. I just wanted a different matchup. That's all I asked for. As a Colts fan, as a fan of a poverty franchise like the Colts, I really wanted to see some different teams. But you know what? It is what it is. I'm happy for Colby Ward, and I'm going to be rooting against this team on Sunday morning. Anyway, guys, have a great rest of your Friday. God bless you, and we'll see you later on this evening.